If your conditional formatting looks stuck, you're not imagining it. You change a value, but the color, icon, or highlight refuses to update. That usually means Excel isn't recalculating the rule the way you think it is. The good news is, this is almost always fixable in a few predictable places. First, confirm the problem is truly not updating, not a rule that's targeting the wrong cells. Then, check calculation settings, because conditional formatting depends on recalculation. After that, we'll look at common rule mistakes like wrong applies to ranges, mixed references, and formulas that return text instead of numbers. We'll also cover cases where the value changes, but it's coming from a formula, a pivot table, or external data, which can delay updates. And finally, we'll talk about performance tricks, because heavy conditional formatting can appear frozen when Excel is just busy. By the end, you'll have a simple checklist you can run in under 2 minutes whenever formatting won't refresh. Next step. Start with a quick sanity check. Is the rule applied to the cells you're editing? Conditional formatting is evaluated per cell, based on the rule and the cell's position in the range. If you edit a cell outside the applies to area, nothing will change, even if the rule looks correct. Another common trap is editing a value that looks like a number but is actually text. Excel may display 10, but treat it as 10 in quotes, which changes comparisons like greater than or less than. Also check whether you're looking at a filtered list. If only some rows are visible, you might think the rule is inconsistent when it's actually applying correctly to hidden rows too. Finally, confirm there aren't multiple rules fighting each other. A higher priority rule can override the one you expect. This first step is about narrowing the cause, wrong target, wrong data type, or rule priority, before you change deeper settings. Next step. The number one reason conditional formatting doesn't refresh is calculation mode. Excel can run an automatic or manual calculation. In manual mode, formulas don't recalculate until you trigger it, and conditional formatting may also lag because the values it depends on aren't updated. If your formatting is based on formulas, this becomes obvious. But even cell value rules can be affected when those values come from formulas or links. The fix is simple. Set calculation to automatic, and if needed, force a full recalculation. A normal recalculation updates dependent formulas. A full recalculation rebuilds dependencies, which helps when Excel's internal dependency tree gets confused. If you're in a large workbook, some people switch to manual for speed and forget to switch back. That's when conditional formatting seems broken. Once calculation is correct, many not updating issues disappear instantly, without touching a single rule. Next step. Next, open the Conditional Formatting Rules Manager and focus on one thing, the Applies To box. This range controls where the rule is evaluated. If it's too small, some cells never update. If it's too large, Excel evaluates more cells than needed, which can slow updates and make changes look delayed. Another subtle issue is when you copy and paste cells. Excel may create duplicate rules with slightly different ranges, so half your table is using one rule and the other half is using a copy. That can look like conditional formatting is randomly stuck. A clean fix is to delete redundant rules and rebuild a single rule that covers exactly the intended range. Also, watch for rules that apply to entire columns. That's convenient, but it can be heavy, especially with volatile formulas. Tight ranges update faster and are easier to debug. Next step. If your rule uses a formula, reference style is the next big culprit. Conditional formatting formulas are written as if they start in the top left cell of the Applies To range. Then Excel fills the logic across the range. If you accidentally lock the wrong part with $signs, every row may evaluate against the same cell, and updates will look wrong or inconsistent. For example, you might intend to compare each row's value to its own threshold, but you've anchored the row reference, so nothing changes as you edit different rows. A good practice is to test the formula in a normal worksheet cell first, using the same references. Then adjust absolute and relative references so the logic shifts correctly down and across. When the references are correct, conditional formatting becomes predictable again, and not updating often turns out to be evaluating the wrong cell. Next step. Another common issue is that Excel is comparing different data types. Conditional formatting rules that use greater than or between behave differently if the cell contains text, a number, or a date serial. This shows up a lot with imported data, where numbers arrive with leading spaces, apostrophes, or hidden characters. It also shows up with formulas that return text, like using text tool to format a number for display. The cell looks numeric, but it's actually a string, so comparisons don't behave as expected. The fix is to normalize the data. Convert text numbers to real numbers, remove stray spaces, and avoid text in cells that you want to compare numerically. For dates, confirm they are true Excel dates, not text dates. Once the underlying values are consistent, conditional formatting updates immediately and reliably. Next step. Rule priority can make correct rules look broken. Excel evaluates conditional formatting rules in order. If a higher rule applies, it can override the formatting you expect from a lower rule. And if stop if true is enabled, Excel won't even evaluate the rules below it for that cell. So when values change, your rule might be updating correctly, but you never see it because another rule is taking precedence. The fix is to simplify. Combine rules where possible and order them intentionally. Put the most specific rule first and the most general rule last. Use stop if true only when you really want to block lower rules. When priorities are clean, changes in values produce changes in formatting that match your mental model instead of feeling random or stuck. Next step. If your conditional formatting depends on volatile functions, updates can feel inconsistent. Volatile functions recalculate more often, and in large sheets they can also slow recalculation enough that formatting appears delayed. Common examples include today, now, rand, ran between, offset, and indirect. These aren't bad functions, but they can make conditional formatting heavier than you expect, especially when applied to large ranges. A better approach is to replace volatile logic with stable references when possible. For dates, consider storing a report date in one cell and referencing it, instead of using now everywhere. For lookups, prefer structured references and direct ranges over indirect. The goal is to reduce unnecessary recalculation so Excel can keep conditional formatting responsive when values change. Next step. Tables add another layer. If your data is in an Excel table, conditional formatting usually behaves well, but problems appear when formulas or rules don't use structured references consistently. For example, you might apply a rule to a column, then later expand the table, and the rule doesn't extend the way you expect. Or you copy values into the table and create duplicate rules. The fix is to ensure the rule applies to the table column range, not a hard-coded address that stops at row 200. Also, when building formula-based rules, decide whether you're referencing the current row or a fixed comparison value. Tables make it easy to keep things consistent, but only if the rule is built with the table's growth in mind. After you clean that up, new rows will format correctly without manual fixes. Next step. Pivot tables are a special case. Many people apply conditional formatting to pivot values, then refresh the pivot, and the formatting seems to stop updating. That's because the pivot can change its layout, and Excel may treat the formatted cells as a moving target. The key is to apply conditional formatting in a way that follows the pivot table structure, not fixed cell addresses. Also check whether the pivot is set to preserve formatting on update. If it's not, refreshes can wipe or partially reset rules. Another issue is that pivot values may be calculated fields or grouped items that update only after a refresh. So if your source data changes, the conditional formatting won't change until the pivot updates too. The fix is to refresh the pivot, then confirm the rule is attached to the correct pivot field and value area. Next step. External data and links can also make conditional formatting look stale. If your values come from Power Query, a CSV import, a database connection, or linked workbooks, the cells might not actually change until the connection refreshes. And if you're using formulas that reference other workbooks, Excel may calculate them differently depending on whether the source file is open. In those cases, the conditional formatting is doing its job, but it's reacting to old values. The practical fix is to control the refresh cycle. Refresh the query or connection, then recalculate. If you need reliability, consider loading data into a stable table and basing conditional formatting on that table, not on intermediate steps. Also watch for background refresh settings that delay updates. Tightening the data flow makes formatting updates feel immediate again. Next step. Sometimes the issue is performance, not logic. Conditional formatting can be expensive when you have many rules, large ranges, or formula-based conditions. Excel may still be updating, but it's doing it slowly, so you experience it as not updating. A simple diagnostic is to temporarily reduce the applies to range and see if updates become instant. If they do, you're dealing with scale. The fix is to consolidate rules, avoid whole column applies to ranges, and use helper columns to pre-compute logic. Helper columns turn complex conditions into simple true or false checks, which are faster to evaluate. Also consider using fewer formats. Icons and gradients can be heavier than a simple fill color. The goal is to make recalculation lightweight enough that formatting changes keep up with your edits. Next step. There are also a few gotchas that look like conditional formatting bugs. Merged cells can cause strange behavior because Excel treats the merged area as one value but multiple addresses. Another is conditional formatting applied to cells that are later converted to values, copied from elsewhere, or pasted with formats, which can carry hidden rule fragments. And if you use named ranges, the name might point to an old range after rows or columns are inserted. A clean fix is to unmerge where possible, use paste special values when you don't want formatting to travel, and audit named ranges that conditional formatting formulas depend on. If you suspect corruption, you can also clear rules from the affected range and rebuild them from scratch. It's not glamorous, but it's often faster than chasing a ghost issue for an hour. Next step. Here's a fast checklist you can reuse. First, confirm the edited cell is inside the rules applies to range. Second, check calculation mode and trigger a full recalculation if needed. Third, verify rule priority and remove duplicates. Fourth, validate references in formula-based rules, especially $signs. Fifth, normalize data types so numbers are numbers and dates are dates. Sixth, if the data comes from pivots or connections, refresh the source before judging the formatting. And finally, if it's a big workbook, treat it as a performance problem. Tighten ranges and simplify rules. If you want one habit that prevents most issues, it's this. Build conditional formatting on clean, consistent data, and keep the rules manager tidy. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more practical Excel fixes. And in the comments, which is your bigger culprit? Manual calculation or messy applies to ranges? Small tweaks compound into massive performance gains. Subscribe to catch the next workflow optimization.